Welcome to the Fantasy Football Anonymous Show, brought to you as always by No One and Nothing. I'm Joe Osno, here with Matthew Schroeder, Rob Shaw. And, well, guys, we're one day away from a day of football and overeating, which are two of the great American traditions. And hope you guys are excited for Week 12. But before we jump into that, what are some of the things that stood out to you from Week 11?
Well, I guess for me is if you watched last week, you learned one thing. Number one, that the Bills shouldn't be putting rookie quarterbacks into the game. Well, I'm actually going to start on the other side for today because the other side of the effort was pretty good by the Chargers, and I'm going to start there. I about said San Diego. Los Angeles Chargers are actually a team on the rise. Right now, they are clicking on both offense and defense. They just put up 50 points on a could have been in contention Buffalo Bills team. 54 actually, and the blowout was on before the second half even began. You saw Keenan Allen have a massive game. I think their weapons are starting to click. I think their health is starting to get under them, and their defense is finally starting to get after quarterbacks and really give them fits. This is a team that I could see become, 5-2, maybe even 6-1 down the stretch. And in that division, that will give them a chance to actually win that division. So the Chargers become a really interesting team for me in the future to keep on watching to see what they can do.
Yeah, Schroeder, that's a good point. It's funny you say how well the Chargers have been playing lately. The biggest thing I took from this week was in that division. And, who are they going to overtake? Well, they could overtake the Kansas City Chiefs. Because right now, the Chiefs, I don't know who they are anymore. That team we saw at the beginning of the season, it's just not showing up. Andy Reid, we were talking about a little bit before the show. He has the best record after the bye week. They came out and lost to the Giants. It was just a terrible game. And that, solid run game, along with Alex Smith taking shots down the field, just not there anymore. And they look like they're struggling to find an identity. This very well could be not San Diego. I keep wanting to say San Diego. The Chargers division to take. They've been playing extremely well. They could come on halfway through. And if the Chiefs want to get back to what they were doing early in the season, I think they have to let Alex Smith loose a little bit, let him take more shots downfield, a few more risks. I just don't think it's going to get done right now. And that pass defense for Kansas City is not good. This is a trap game. They're playing Buffalo this week. Buffalo loses the teams that are bad and can beat good teams, apparently, sometimes. So, this is the division for them to keep ahead. I could easily see San Diego. There we go again. Los Angeles take the division. So,
yeah, I like the call, Rob. I think they might lose this week with Tyrod Taylor taking over after the Nate Peterman reality tour has come to an end. I can't take credit for that. I heard it elsewhere.
That's good.
Yeah, another one of the big storylines last week. We saw two 7-2 teams doing battle up in Minnesota, and the Vikings come away with a decisive victory there over the Rams. The game kind of turned on a costly Cooper Kupp fumble right at the 1 yard line of Minnesota. After that, Los Angeles just could not get another sniff. The Vikings defense is incredibly tough. And, I still think the Rams are a very good team, and they're probably going to win that division. Minnesota looks like one of the top favorites in the NFC, even with a backup quality quarterback, leading the way for him.
Case Keenum's gaining some confidence, though, and he's starting to get a little bit more confident. And even if he falters a little bit, they can still throw in Teddy Bridgewater into the mix. So they could definitely pose a problem for some teams come playoff time.
And I will say that offensive line is just the difference is night and day between this year and last. It's so much better. And that makes all the difference.
really think hurt the Vikings in previous years. They've had a good defense. But one thing you'll notice in the NFL, if you have a great defense, but the offense just cannot stay on the field and get the defense off the field, the defense eventually breaks down. I mean, you look at Denver, good example of that. It's like you said, Joe, they have the offensive line now. They have receivers. Even Latavius Murray, Jerick McKinnon, they've looked really good behind that line. They're getting it done on the offensive side of the ball. It's taking a lot of pressure off the Vikings. I wasn't predicting them to make the playoffs, and they're going to win that division. So, yeah, it's a shock. I wasn't seeing that at the beginning of the year.
Adam Thielen has also been a revelation on the offensive side of the ball for Minnesota. He has really continued to up his game to become one of – it's going to be strange hearing this – one of the premier wide receivers in the NFL, even though that's crazy to hear.
And he's not even the best receiver on his team. So
yeah, he's not even the best receiver.
For weapons there.
So we're going to be moving into what are the games that we're really looking forward to the most for the upcoming week, this week. So, Joe, let's go ahead and start with you. Which game are you really looking forward to?
Well, my hated Saints are taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Almost wanted to say St. Louis. But I think this should probably be the best game of the week. These are two offenses that have really been clicking lately. Even if Minnesota was able to stifle the Rams a little bit last week. Two teams that really want to run the football and take shots down the field when available. Those two running backs for New Orleans, they're unbelievable. I haven't been drafting them in DraftKings as often as I should lately. But yeah, all three guys should feast here. Gurley, Kamara, Ingram, all great plays this week. I think Michael Thomas should have some space here too. And yeah, we saw that improved Saints defense get a little bit exposed last week by Kirk Cousins. Seemed like Josh Doxson and their weapons there had a lot more room to work than New Orleans' previous opponents. So maybe we get a Sammy Watkins sighting here. You know I love the guy, but it's up in the air what he's going to be week to week. But he's so incredibly talented. You know, if you need an upside play, I don't think he's a bad choice to go with.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah, those running backs have been fantastic. I agree with you on Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas has been a bit of a disappointment in fantasy football, but PPR, he's top 10 right now. So he's a solid PPR play. I definitely like him a little more than that. He seems to get a lot involved in the game a lot, but the touchdowns seem to go more so to the running backs, which I like them every week. They're fantastic plays. One of the games I'm looking forward to the most is Thanksgiving. Cowboys and the Chargers. And I said Chargers because that was really hard for me not to say San Diego. It was San Diego, yeah. So Cowboys, wow, they look bad without Zeke. And that was not my prediction. I thought Zeke, I think he's a good quarterback, but I think he's really struggling to adjust to not having a great running game and a dynamic running back. I still like Alfred Morris in fantasy football. I think he's starting to lean towards him. It looked like it may have been a split backfield, but I think he's establishing himself as a solid play. Not great, but hey, with all the injuries at this time of year, sometimes you have to go with them. And but yeah, I just like what I see from San Diego. I know they're playing a struggling Bills team that's been blown out, but credit and this offense, Keenan Allen was dynamic. He could not be stopped. I think that's going to happen again. I think he's going to go all over that Dallas secondary that has struggled quite a bit. Melvin Gordon, also a good play. From Dallas' side, I just don't know if they can hang in there with these teams. They just looked so bad against the Eagles. And it is the Eagles. I understand they're a great team. I just think the momentum is so far in the Chargers area right now. I think they're going to take this game and catch up one game closer to the Kansas City Chiefs, if not hold pace with them. And yeah, I love Keenan Allen this week, so I'm all in on him. I think he's going to have 10 catches for 110 yards and 1 touchdown. So I'll, not 2, but 1. So we'll see if that stat line comes true. But I like him this week. Start him. You won't regret it.
Yeah, I agree, Rob. One of the things I think Dak has been struggling with is that he finally, without Tyron Smith, he's starting to get pressured. And he didn't really have to do that a lot last year, and he really wasn't used to it a lot this year. But now, especially with that, with Tyron Smith not playing lately, and the fact that Ezekiel Elliott's not out there on the field, I think now he's starting to be relied on a lot more. And you're seeing things that you typically haven't seen from him over the past 2 games, where he hasn't just looked as good as he had looked previously. So, yeah, I got to agree. We'll see. I mean, this is going to be a big test against a pretty good San Diego defense coming up. The game I got is actually the first game of tomorrow, Thanksgiving Day, and that's going to be the Lions and the Vikings. This game will actually be deciding the NFC North crown. The Lions won a thriller beforehand earlier in the year, a 14-7 affair, if I remember correctly, over the Vikings. But the Vikings' offense has gotten a lot better since then, and their defense has still maintained very good status. While the Lions, on the other hand, they've had a few more ups and downs. On the Vikings side, that their offense, they're actually starting to look a lot better with Latavius Murray as their lead back. Guys, he's looked a lot better than whenever he first got thrown in after Dalvin Cook was hurt. Between him and McKinnon, they actually do have a good thing going. I always hate to say two-headed monster because usually it's just 2 running backs that suck and they're forced to go out there together. But these 2 guys are actually pretty good, and they're actually putting up some numbers for this offense. And then they got 2 very good wide receivers in Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. And so they're making Case Keenum look like a proven bet. And Keenum himself has also stepped up and gotten more confident as his defense has continued to give him opportunities to keep on moving the ball with good field position. On the other side, I think this could actually be a little bit of a tough game for Matthew Stafford as he's facing a very good defense in Minnesota. But the Lions are a solid team. They're right on the playoff fringe for me. So this game is actually going to do a lot to decide if they're going to be making the playoffs, because if they win this, that means they'll have won both games against Minnesota, and that gives them a very good chance with Minnesota's remaining schedule and how easy Detroit's remaining schedule is to actually take the division and take the NFC North. And so I'm looking at this game as kind of the key point of who is going to take that division crown and be reigning champion.
It's funny because, we're at the Packers now.
Yeah.
I mean, it was going to be them and Minnesota and Detroit, and it was a great wow. Rodgers, testament to how good he is. Last week, watching that game.
Yeah. I will say it feels like the Lions have kind of had the Vikings number here lately on these Thanksgiving Day games. But that's just because Matthew Stafford has been able to kind of take care of the ball and avoid major mistakes. I don't think that's going to be enough the way Minnesota's clicking right now. Mm-hmm. So I would agree with you.
I think Minnesota is going to win just because of their improved offense. That's the difference. Schroeder, I agree. Latavius Murray looks good. He looks maybe even better than he was in Oakland. And he was very effective, especially from a fantasy football standpoint. His fantasy value in this game, even with McKinnon there, I think they're both pretty good plays. I lean more towards Murray in a PPR.
Yeah. Well, guys, we appreciate you listening in. You can please go ahead and like us below, as well as subscribe to our page. You can also email us at ffanonymous3@gmail.com or shoot us a tweet with your questions or comments at ffanonymous3 as well. For me, Joe, and Rob, thanks for listening. And as always, stay addicted.